This would be the first recording in the presentation of my observations with respect to life amidst the celestial bodies and the influences that we have from them. These have been observations from last 1 or 2 years mostly, but yeah, we've been learning for quite a number of years now and observing, in fact, and now I feel that mm, I am able to conclude a few things related to the influences, the external influences that we have in life. More so much that despite all our efforts, despite all our planning strategies and die hard, do or die kind of attitude, things don't turn out as we want them to be. But here's my take on what affects our goals and destiny, and how the external and internal factors have to come together to make it happen for you, to make those miracles happen for you. For those who don't believe in unseen influential powers, you may as well as consider this as a fairy tale story. For those who believe, my observations might very well make some sense, and of course, the scholars can vet or ratify my observations. So, this is going to be a collection of ideas and theories basically from here and there, but which make a lot of sense to me, and I've been trying to validate them as life progresses. 25th December 2020 morning, sun rising up, and Merry Christmas. So, continuing with the observations that I was talking about, the introduction is uh, I'm discussing or about to discuss the factors that influence everything about us, everything that we do in life, and the very fact that first thing is to, of course, understand why we're here, and once you've understood that, what is it that you need to do to proceed towards your destiny. That's a fairly ambiguous word, but that's what I would like to call for simplicity. So the discussion, to take it forward, okay, let me put it this way: we are part of Earth. All that we are made up of, the elements that we borrow from, the body that we borrow from Earth, gives us a vessel to move through a time-space continuum for whatever lifetime you have, an average of 70 years maybe, if somebody can survive to 70 years. So you have borrowed this body, a male body, a female body, from Earth. So you are very much the blueprint of Earth. And in that sense, whatever affects Earth affects you. So while we have this body as a tool of trade, like we said in today's jargon. Uh, Similarly, your body also contains the soul, the spirit, which is also using another two tools of trade, which are your emotions, EQ, or the mind, the IQ. So, your thought process, your emotional process, and the body to execute those thoughts, amplified by your heart. So, your body is out there to deliver or manifest whatever you've been thinking and feeling. So, before we go inwards, let's talk about the external influences. External influences that we are born in, will live through, and die. Whether you want willingly or unwillingly, knowingly or unknowingly, whether you're mindful or not. But ignorance is not bliss, and you very well make it your business to know what you're living in and under what circumstances you're living in. Smartness doesn't just come from what you do in the things that you know. Smartness also comes from the fact in understanding your surroundings and things which are beyond your control or thought processes. Okay, now coming back to the earth factor, Mother Earth factor, uh, we have borrowed elements, we have been given a vessel for the soul to travel through a lifetime with the properties or basic characteristics of the earthly elements and the atmosphere. But Earth, being part of the solar system, has its peers who are continuously affecting all the planets, the sun, they're all affecting the earth continuously. So that's where the planetary influences affect earth and everything on earth, including us. So when we come down to the microcosm, to the level of an individual life form as me or you, how does what are those influences of the planets? So the influences are on an extreme range. Immediate to our surroundings, where we live, yes, our family, our friends, our colleagues, our neighbors, everybody affects in our daily life. They have a direct or indirect influence on what we do and how we do, on whether we can do certain things or we cannot do certain things. The social uh, limitations, right? So the way they are peers to your life, the planets are peers to the earth, and while the sun is taking its jing bang and around the Milky Way, around the galaxy, there's a set pattern in which they rotate around the sun, move along with the sun, perpendicular. So the rotation, the revolutions around the sun are perpendicular to the direction of the motion of the solar system. But at any point of time, every planet is influencing Earth. The way Earth is also influencing them, but we don't know about life forms on other planets, so we talk about life forms on Earth and how life forms on Earth are influenced by the electromagnetic or other forces which I probably am not aware of. But having been born in a tradition which gives so much of emphasis to the planetary effects, Navgrahas, and not just the tradition that I'm born. Uh, there has been a large following since the beginning of humanity among all traditions, among all uh, social circles. God or no God, planets are there, planets are proven scientifically, and their influence are known to the level of gravitational forces, and other such phenomenon within the solar system. But to the extent of spiritual or psychological or emotional, that is that is a field for certain set of people who are spending time on understanding the astrological world and also the movement of planets in the skies above. So, coming back to the point that I'm trying to make, we are influenced by these planets, whether you like it or not, in a benefic or a malefic manner at all points of time. And if you do not know how they uh, they are looking down upon you with a good, neutral, or a bad influence, you wouldn't know whether uh, what you're doing at any point of time will give you the results that you desire. Just to define the solar system in a short manner, the summary: the sun is supposed to be the king of the solar system, the all-powerful, life-giving king, with the moon being the queen who rules your emotions. Uh, it controls your temperament, your emotions, and the influences of moon are the most I'll say the fastest, as in the phases of the moon waxing and waning, the mood swings. So their influences, and this is the only celestial being on the planet, not planet, but the celestial being which changes its phases the fastest as compared to any other planet in the solar system. So the moon's effects are felt with every lunar cycle. Then comes the son of the king and the queen, Mercury. Mercury bestows knowledge. Mercury is the prince, supposed to be an eunuch prince, and is the giver of knowledge and mind power to individuals. Going forward, then you have, in terms of importance and in terms of their effect on the overall solar system, you have Jupiter, or Guru, who is the bestower of wealth and knowledge both, and is supposed to be mostly benign or benefic. But he's the minister to the king, the son, the male minister to the king, and the male priest who advises the son on the matters of governance. Similarly, on the other side, you have the female priestess or the female minister, which is Venus, who is the advisor to the moon, the queen, and the Venus also stands for worldliness, materialism, luxuries in life, the glamour part, you name it, whatever you see in the world, the glamorous aspect of it, the wealth, all that is supposed to be bestowed by Venus. Then we have Mars, the warlord, the captain, the general of the sun's army, the king's army. Mars is the warlord. He is the one who wages wars against evil, against disorder, to maintain the kingdom of the sun. And in that respect, is autocratic, is aggressive, very disciplined, very well trained in martial arts. A strike from Mars, a strike from the general of wars cannot be defended, cannot be shielded. So, such are the powers of Mars, right? And then we have Saturn, the wise old servant of the solar system, who's very knowledgeable, who's very wise, cunning, but very slow. Like an old man, like an aged person, whatever he does it very slowly. Take three. We were discussing about the planetary beings, and we have covered up to Saturn so far. So we have Rahu and Ketu, who do not exactly have a equivalent in the Western zodiacs, but yes, in the Vedic astrology, Rahu and Ketu are very much the invisible celestial bodies who influence the solar system and life forms on Earth. The story behind Rahu and Ketu uh, goes back to the stories of devas and demons, right? So while the Amrit Manthan was happening, and when Amrit was being dispersed by Lord Vishnu, uh, one of the demons disguised as a deva stood among the devas to have a taste of the nectar, the immortal nectar. And after consuming it, it was discovered that it was a demon and not a deva. So Sudarshan was used to chop off the head. So, but the fact that the demon had tasted nectar and had become immortal, it couldn't die. So the head became Rahu and the body became Ketu. The head is all about root cause analysis, detective works, deep diving, psychological studies, you name it. The depths of logic, Rahu is the one behind it. Detective work, R&D, Rahu. Rahu is behind the scenes. Okay. Ketu is the body part, all body, all heart, no brains, all emotions basically, and very generous emotions to the extent of giving away everything. So Ketu belongs to that uh, package, and Ketu is the no nonsense butcher of the solar system. We'll come to that. So, uh, okay, Rahu and Ketu are also the army of the solar system. They are the army being ruled by Mars, and the judge is Saturn. So, this completes all the 9 planets that we were talking about, the planetary beings that influence Earth. Earth is part of the solar system, so it is influenced by all the 9. And the trio of Saturn, Rahu, and Ketu form the judiciary of God here in the solar system only, as I believe they don't have influence beyond the solar system. If you are able to go beyond the influence of the sun, the sphere of influence of the sun, the Navgrahas cannot touch you. They don't have any influence on you. You can escape. You can escape the solar system's effects and get free of this planetary influences. But until then, your every moment is ruled by them. So this judiciary of God consists of Rahu, the policeman, the detective, the record keeper, the Chitragupt, who is keeping a record of all your actions, karma, right? He keeps recording everything. He files reports on you all the time that you do. And when the time comes, these reports are submitted to the judge. Saturn, black, totally black, wise. Again, no nonsense, no nonsense. But hey, you can negotiate with Saturn, right? You can negotiate with Saturn. You accept your guilt. Maybe he'll reduce the sentence. So Saturn is the ultimate teacher in that sense that he trains you through hard work, through uh, being fair, no shortcuts. Whatever you get from Saturn is justice, straightforward. Being the head of the judicial system within solar system can shape the way that you go through life through hard work. And there's so many other factors about Saturn which can be elaborated, but that's not the idea here. Now, coming back to Ketu, Ketu is also the uh, that part of life which we call as Vanvas or the ascetic's life. You sacrifice everything to lead a life of a saint, right? You don't desire anything, you surrender everything. The moment you don't have a head, you don't have an ego. And when you don't have an ego, you have surrendered completely to life. And you live life the way it comes to you. So that's about Ketu. Now, uh, all these planets have influences on us throughout our lifetimes, but with varying time frames. In the sense that every planet doesn't have the same amount of influence on your life cycle, but varying time cycles. I'll elaborate on that also. Coming back to human life, as per the Vimshottari system, which believes that, which considers the fact that no man or woman can live beyond the age of 120 years in a lifetime. So these 120 years, the cycle of 120 years is distributed among the 9 planets, uh, wherein in a cyclic order, in the same cyclic order, starting with the sun, which is which rules you, uh, rules which aspects your time for about 10 years. The moon, sorry, the sun aspects for 6 years. The moon aspects for 10 years. Rahu 17 years. Uh, Saturn 19 years. Jupiter 17 years. And Mercury 17 years. Venus, the max 20 years. Then you have Ketu with 7 years again. Now, Ketu's, it's said that if Ketu was also allocated a time of 17 years or 19 years like other planets, uh, most of humanity wouldn't have survived. They wouldn't have wanted a life under Ketu as an ascetic or as an saint, because it asks you to sacrifice everything that you have. Worldliness, relationships, any desire that you can keep from the world, you are asked to sacrifice. So only ascetics can survive that kind of a stage. Sages or saints can survive, but not normal, mere mortal human beings. So they say that those 7 years are like a concentration camp or life within an ICU. You don't want to be there for long. So that's how effective it is. Okay, so all these 9 planets distribute these 120 years among themselves, and they occur in a cyclic manner, the same cyclic manner. There is no change in the order of the planets, and they influence you for as much time as their periods are supposed to last. In the Vimshrutri system, they are known as Mahadasha and Antardasha. There's another sub-level which we'll not talk about, but these two, Mahadasha and Antardasha, are the influencing factors on you. So now, before continuing with how they affect you, uh, you need to understand the ascendant or lagna in which you're born. So at any given location or at any given time when you're born, on the easternmost part of the horizon or sky, that constellation which is rising becomes your ascendant, and it becomes the ascendant for life. Talking about ascendant for life, uh, let's focus on 3 things: ascendant, ascendant lord, one set; Mahadasha, the planet which is in your, which is aspecting your Mahadasha, second set; and third set would be Antardasha, and the planet which is aspecting your Antardasha. So you have, at any point of time, you are passing through, or you're governed by these 3 aspects: your ascendant sign, your Mahadasha, and your Antardasha. Any instantaneous movement, right? So similar counterparts are the ruling entities of these time periods. You have the ascendant lord. Uh, each ascendant sign has its own lord, which governs you throughout your lifetime. And then you have Mahadasha, whichever planet has its Mahadasha going on for you, that will rule or aspect your life very prominently for that period, which ranges from 6 years to 20 years, depending on which planet it is. Similarly, Antardasha, which is a sub-cycle, you're ruled by another planet during that sub-cycle. So, for example, if your Mahadasha or the cycle is that of Venus, which is for 20 years, you again have those 20 years divided among the 9 planets with varying time periods, which could be 2.5 years, 3 years, 1 year, depending on what is allocation given to each of these 9 planets. So you can have the Mahadasha of Venus, which is the cycle of Venus, and then you have the sub-cycle of, you can have of any of the 9 planets. Again, it could be Venus, it could be Sun, Moon, so on and so forth. So if you really want to understand at any point of time which ascendant, which Mahadasha, which Antardasha planets are ruling your time, you need to look into your horoscope or the Lagna chart, ascendant chart, right? So now coming back to how they affect you. Your ascendant lord or Lagnapati is like your principal, is the principal of the of your university or college, which is your life. So the principle doesn't change for you throughout your lifetime. The Ascendant Lord is your principle for life. They aspect you throughout your lifetime. Similarly, you have the Mahadasha ruler, that planet which will aspect you for that period of Mahadasha and Antardasha. So the Mahadasha, you can, the planet ruling the Mahadasha, you can liken it to the class teacher. So since you're going through a particular phase of your life or a particular class in your school, you'll have a class teacher assigned for the year or for the period of that cycle for which that Mahadasha is there. So again, taking the example of Venus, if it is a 20-year Mahadasha of Venus, you have the class teacher assigned to you. The Venus is the class teacher for 20 years. And similarly, depending on the Antardasha, the subcycle, you have a subject teacher for the subcycle period. So it could, the class teacher could be your subject teacher for the time assigned, which could be about say 3 years. So your class teacher is also your subject teacher for the first 3 years. Then you move on to say Sun, who could be there for 1 year or 8 months. So Sun is another subject teacher, Moon is another subject teacher, so on and so forth. So these 9 planets come during this Mahadasha as subject teachers to teach you those aspects of life for which they stand or which they are known for, which is their specialty. They're subject matter experts on their subjects, right? So while you're attending or while you're in this class or attending this class of the planets, the two planets at any point of time, the planet ruling your Mahadasha and the planet ruling your Antardasha, you cannot ignore them. You just cannot ignore them, and you are in the direct focus influence of these class teacher and subject teacher. So there is no getting away from them, and their influence is immediate and important and powerful. So whatever you're doing at that point of time in life, you need to have an understanding with your class teacher and subject teacher, and of course the principal at the overall level. Yes, you already have a pact with the principal or the ascendant lord for the lifetime. So you just cannot. I mean, the deal is already done with the ascendant lord for a lifetime. There's no changing that. So when referring to Mahadasha and Antardasha, we'll refer to the class teacher and the subject teacher, the main two planets with whom you have an understanding that while you are in that class for that much amount of time, or under the class teacher, the subject teacher for that much amount of time, what is the beneficial, what is the advantage that you're going to get out of that time from those teachers, right, or those planets? If you're going to be arrogant, wayward, casual, these teachers are going to give you a hard time, punitive, penalizing, suspension, whatever you call it. You will have a bad time. You will not have going to have a good experience through these teachers if they're badly aligned towards you or you are misbehaving towards them, right? You need to understand their agenda and align yourself along with their agenda. They're more powerful than you. Next, if they're good to you, they are benefit to you, and you are aligned with them, you have a good understanding, you are showered with their grace and blessings. You will get your way along. You keep them happy, they keep you happy. You know, win-win. This is the second state of affairs which you can have with this subject teacher and class teacher. Third state of affairs is neutral. Uh, they don't bother you, you don't bother them, but then that's a very average way of living. You know, you're not getting the best out of the situation with them. You're not bothering them, and they're not bothering you. Yeah, I mean, you can continue like this, but then nothing's happening in life. You know, peaceful. So that is another state of life that you can have. So the point now is there's a combination. So you have three states. Uh, you have the benefic state, the neutral state, and the malefic state. The effects of these teachers on you. Secondly, it can also be a combination of the class teacher is benefic to you, The subject teacher is malefic. So under each stage of the class teacher, like if the ruling planet or the Mahadasha planet is benefic to you, the Antardasha planet can be benefic, neutral, or malefic to you. Similarly, there are three states. So there are 3 into 3 9 states in which you can have equations with these two planets for you. Now, if both of them are malefic, you had it. You're going to have a very bad time with these two teachers for as long as they last. Now, this I've talked about only one particular ruling planet for the Mahadasha and one particular planet for the Antardasha. Now, while we have these 9 equations with, you can have 9 equations with two teachers, you can imagine what happens with the 9 Antardashas within one Mahadasha, and again the 9 Mahadashas throughout your 120-year life cycle, right? So that can go on and on. Now the point here is, uh, so 9 Mahadashas and 9 Antardashas, so you have 81 combinations of these specific periods wherein you have two teachers at any point of time. So all the 9 ruling planets will become your class teachers at one point of time, and similarly they will also become your subject teachers during your Antardasha. Okay. Now the point here is, are you going to survive 120 years? No, I said 70 years to keep an average at the beginning of your the beginning of this video, right? So assuming that we live 70 years, now the next point is, where or which part of those Mahadashas are going to spend your 70 years in, under which class teacher and under which subject teacher? Basically class teacher. The subject teachers repeat in every class, right? So now let's divide your lifetime of the 70 years, effective 70 years, into productive and non-productive. So out of those 70, the first 20 years or 25 years, you are as a child, as a young person growing up under the influence of parents, you're dependent on them. So you hardly have your thing kicking in, you're not happening. What is happening is uh, what your parents or what your school or whatever your surroundings want for you. So you're not really in control there, but yes, rare cases, yes, people are in control as children also. But then the point is, majority of you are dependent on your parents and the school to grow up, or whatever you've been doing through your childhood. So those 20 years are not really yours. They're not prime time. And the prime time is once you become independent, you get employed, you have your own business, self-employed, whatever you do to earn a livelihood. So this could range from the age of 20 to the age of 60. This is prime time, 40 years prime time, give or take, plus or minus 5 years. So this 40 to 50 years could be your prime time. Okay. So assuming majority of the people retire at 60, so 60 to 70, you have another 10 years of non-productive existence, wherein again you have certain things to do, but then they're not your prime time. So you lose, out of the 70 years, 30 years are non-prime time and 40 years are prime time, right? Now the challenge is, how do you know your prime time, the age of 20 to 60, you're going to spend with the benefic planets or class teachers? Okay, so if you consider focus on these 40 years to make things happen for you in life, whatever goals or desires you had for a lifetime, your destiny. So do you know that, would you know that your 40 years will be spent among under the most benefic class teacher that you had? So how many class teachers can there be in your 40 years? Let's look at that. How many Mahadashas you can have in your prime time. Okay. So if you take the longest, uh, which is Venus for 20 years, and before that you have Ketu for 7 years, and after Venus is Sun for 6 years. So that's about 26 plus 7, 33, and you can put another 10 years of Moon. So at any point of time, there are only 3 or 4 max class teachers who will go through your prime time, will affect you through your prime time. So that basically means out of those 9 planets, there are only 3 or 4 planets who are going to be your class teachers, who are going to affect your prime time and your goals for life in a very important way. Now, if we say that these are the productive time spent in your life with the class teachers or the ruling planets during their Mahadashas, would you want to spend your time with the benefic ones or the neutral ones or the malefic ones? The thing is, yes, you want to spend them with your benefic class teachers because you want to get the most out of your life. And if you're lucky enough that your prime time is happening with your being spent with your benefic class teachers, you will have the best of the worlds, inner and internal and external. Whatever you decide internally, your class teachers are blessing you to achieve that externally, in terms of whatever you want in life, prime time. So now the question is, these 3 or 4 prime time class teachers, are they all good? Are they a mixed bag, good, neutral and bad? Or are they neutral and bad, or are they all bad? So if, depending on what they are, you can have a very good life, you can have an average roller coaster of a life, or you can have a bad life, prime time. So it is important to identify your prime time class teachers and the ruling planets who are going to be there for those 3 or 4 Mahadasas or cycles. So how do you know which are the good or the bad ruling planets for you? That is where you look back into your horoscope and you try to identify how all of these 9 planets were placed in your ascendant chart, and at the time of your birth, what was the role of how were they placed towards you? Were they placed beneficially, or neutrally, or uh, malefically towards you? How were they disposed towards you? So once you know, because that's the blueprint. In other words, what a medical report is for your body, your horoscope is for your soul. So the horoscope is fixed. It's a birth report which doesn't change for life. So if at the time of your birth there were certain good planets, they remain uh, benefit to you throughout your lifetime. So that is also frozen. Like the ascendant sign and the ascendant lord, your good, bad, and neutral planets are also frozen for the lifetime. Just that uh, while you're spending your time in their class or in their subject, uh, under the class teacher, the subject teacher, you will undergo good, bad, or neutral experiences. But once knowing who are your good planets and bad planets and are they fitting into your prime time or not, you know what deal you're going to get of life. Now, I don't know how many people would know this or would even prepare for this or calculate this. You always go to a Jyotishi or astrologer asking for how's my time now and today, tomorrow, day after, whatever it is. But then you're not looking at life in the long run, right? You're looking for those moments of momentary relief that some astrologer can give you, and they take you for a ride. Then they use astrology as a cash cow to mint money. But then the point here is, this is basic Vedic astrology or with Vedic education that everybody should know, to use them as a guide to go through in their lifetimes. Now, certain countries have compulsory military service, right? I know for two, Israel, Singapore, they demand that you take military training or you serve the army for at least 2 years of your lifetime, 2 or 3 years, which prepares you for any emergencies if they come. Same way, I believe within the Indian traditional system, where the homeland of the Vedas, where this information is available, it should be made compulsory as part of sciences. Maybe uh, the way we have social sciences and we have the real sciences, this could be added as basics to understand how to interpret your chart, your horoscope, and also to understand how your life is progressing based on your horoscope. So if you have this blueprint in front of you, you can align all other wish lists, desires, strategies, or plans or goals that you have in life along with them, and you will not be very disappointed. You know what's coming, and then you take steps to counter them if they're negative or the bad, and then still achieve your goals. So from that angle, this is very important to understand who are you going to spend your prime time with, which planets, and then since each planet stands for some virtue or the other, you have to build upon those virtues within you to be on the uh, good side or the receiving side of that planet. Now, if you go through life without understanding this, chances are you're getting head on uh, with situations with real life which is beyond your control, and you don't understand why they are going bad or they are out of control, and you blame yourself for your failures, and then you get into a state of depression where you feel you're not worth it, and that vicious cycle of self defeat. So you are skilled, you are good at whatever you've been training on, irrespective of the situations, irrespective of the times you're being tested in. But you need to know that the external situations are not in your control. Having known that, your expectations will be set right first of all. That whether you are doing a thing during challenging times, during beneficial times, or neutral times, and accordingly you'll get the results. Challenging times, no matter how hard you work, how much effort you put, you are not going to get the results you desire. A fraction of what you put in, that's what you might get. But the point is, again, that you will not be disappointed because you tried your best and things didn't happen because the road was not smooth ahead. So, alternately, you can actually plan, not waste your time, too much of effort and time on doing things when the time is bad or the road is rough in front. You wait for the right time and the right occasion to come. When you go all out, achieve those desires which you could have spent donkey years to achieve the same desires and results within a very short span of time when you know the going is good. So this is how you have to identify the path which is in front of you, identify the goals that you have. Of course, you already have the goals in place, but then you have to correlate which action to execute at what point of time to get the maximum results. Now, without knowing what is in store for you from those planetary beings, you go all out in life working hard, hard and hard. Chances are you will defeat yourself and you will still not reach there. Uh, so this is hard work. Now, understanding your horoscope and the planetary positions and their alignment towards you, and you execute your works accordingly, that is smart work. This is something which I wanted to share, and at any point of time, you can always look at the Mahadasha and Antardasha, and also the transits of planets during those months, every month, how they're transiting through houses and where they're falling. They become weak, they become strong, they become neutral. So every week, the way you plan your meetings in the office with customers or with your clients or with peers, You have to fix appointments with your planetary positions or the ruling planets, class teacher, subject teacher, so that you don't want to fix an appointment with a bad teacher while doing something good, right? You're going to get a negative result. So you look for the right moment, fix up an appointment, and execute that work in the right moment, because then you have the blessings of the subject teacher and the class teacher. So if you don't have the blessings, you stay put. You don't waste your efforts. You hang on. Now, this is something which you have to monitor very closely on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. But then we do everything else in our schedules, in our weekly schedules, in our official and home schedules. We try to control them as control freaks from A to Z, but we don't do 1% towards managing our relations or equations with the planets, the principal, the class teacher, and the subject teacher. Had you known this, I mean, why be smart in only one aspect of life which is visible to you? The visible, what you see is what you believe, and that's what you do. Whatever you can think, you can write, you can execute, you think is visible, is real, and whatever you cannot, these energies that are around you all the time, you don't deal with them, and then you lose. You tend to lose because you ignored them. Ignorance is not bliss again, right? So the point here is, a genius is not just good in one thing. He is good in probably everything that he handles or touches upon. Similarly, a smart worker is smart in every aspect of his domain or the domains that he is dealing with. You cannot say that what I see is real, so I will only deal with the real. You have to deal with the invisible also, provided you understand them. So, the real strategy is to understand both your world, your internal world, and the external world, which is invisible to you, which you don't know how to deal with. But then you develop a method, then you correlate which what equation fits in best between the internal and external worlds, and I'm sure you will not be disappointed with the results, because you really are not in control. You're only aligning yourselves. You're dancing to the tunes. You are a puppet to something which is executing the bigger order. uh, Talking about the equation that you need to maintain with your subject teacher and class teacher, how do you negotiate? How do you negotiate with a bad teacher or neutral teacher or a good teacher? An example, uh, as a parent, you have three kids. One is your favorite, you love this child, he's the doting child. The second kid is, you're somewhat neutral. Yeah, you're good to the child when you're happy, when you're bad to the child when you're unhappy, other times you're neutral. And similarly, you have this naughty child whom you're always annoyed with, you're always unhappy with, and you always tend to start the discussion with that child in a negative or a punitive way. Okay. Now, the point here is, when you come back to home from outside and you've got something for the kids, the natural tendency as a parent is to give out uh, the gifts to the child whom you like the most first. You'll immediately, upon arriving home, you will call out the child and say, okay, come here, take this, I've got this for you. And uh, then the neutral child and the naughty child. So, like I said, if you're happy, you will give them accordingly. And when the neutral child comes to you, you don't have a grudge or any issue with the child, so you just give it out. And when the naughty child comes, you question the child. You say, what have you done today? I will not give you this gift. I will not, tell me you've done something good. If you have not, I will not give you. So in a way, you are again negotiating with the bad child, right? So the negative child, the naughty child has to put extra efforts to win your confidence, to you win your blessings. Whereas the good child doesn't have to do anything. His presence itself is good enough for you to give him a blessing, right? The neutral child has to, yes, still put some efforts to please you, and the naughty child has to really put out his best efforts to please you. Otherwise, you start out with a negative remark, right? But on the contrary, if the negative or the naughty child against whom you have negative disposition, that child tries to please you. He comes out to you and tells you so many things that he has done good, according to your expectations, whatnot. Your anger or your disappointment mellow down. You might at some point, given to that efforts being put in by the naughty child or negatively disposed child who's trying to impress you by things that he has done, which otherwise you would have found some fault with. Similarly, the neutral child, if he does something good, you will praise that child, and if he does something negative, you'll rebuke, right? So this is the kind of equation as a parent we have with our children. They do good, we reward them. They do bad, or they how they usually behave, that is how you deal with them, right? Now, that is exactly the relationship between us and our planets. We might have a badly disposed planet due to the ascendant chart or the time at which you were born. They were badly aligned. But that does not mean that you cannot negotiate with them and you cannot win their blessings. So it's just that you have to put those extra efforts, by virtue of your birth and your time. There's nothing that, okay, there are karmic reasons why they were placed in such positions that they were bad. That goes back to your previous times, not the current lifetime. But because of their, so those holdings, those place holdings for those particular planets, there's a theory to it also. I mean, there's a science to it. Why they are placed in good, bad, or neutral positions, because of each planet stands for something, some virtue, and whether you get it or not depends on the baggage or handicap that you're getting from your past karma. So if a planet is badly placed, that means that's a curse or a handicap that you're carrying forward into this lifetime, that you will not get the benefits of that planet. So they are badly placed, or they are there to punish you in a way, right? Similarly, a good uh, planet, a good planetary position is a blessing, is something which was there in your bank account now, which you in the previous cycle, and now you are ready to encash it. The efforts are being yielded to you now, right? So that's how it is. So the thing is, positive planets, positive teachers, positive blessings taken for granted. Don't work hard, you'll get it. It's the bad planets or badly disposed planets or the neutral planets whose uh, blessings you require, whose grace you require. They are stakeholders who make or break your deals in life, the current life. So you have to work hard on the bad planets, the badly positioned planets and the neutral planets, because you want them positive. And now, while you're slugging your ass out through your lifetime, before your parents, your teachers, your bosses, all these buggers are mere mortals under the influence of the same planets who are your masters, right? Now, you suck up to your boss, you suck up to your teacher, you suck up to whoever is going to give you a reward, a blessing, a promotion, or whatnot you want in life, and you dedicate your life towards them. They are mere mortals. They are under control of bigger forces. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time sucking up to these bosses. They're after all human as you are. So it's those circumstances and situations in which you are that make you do things, right? So understand those situations, understand who's influencing that virtue or that flavor of the situation, Is it a financial aspect? Is it an emotional aspect? Is it a knowledge aspect that you're fighting for, struggling for in life? What is it that you're looking for in life? And which planet aspects that you need to negotiate with that? You need to work hard there, not with your human bosses. You need to work with your invisible masters, negotiate with them, and work hard in your efforts with them. So it says, right? The saying goes, practice makes a man perfect. Whatever you do again and again and again and again, you become so skilled, you become an expert, uh, you become so skilled that you are known for that. That becomes your brand value, or that becomes your face value, right? But practice with prayers makes miracles happen. Practice makes perfection. Practice with prayers makes miracles happen. Now, practice everybody does, everybody does. Every person who is working on their life or career or livelihood does. How many pray and pray meaningfully and pray directly? When I say pray, you are discussing your plans with the stakeholders, which are your subject teacher, class teacher, and the principal on a daily basis. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you are working out your deal. So every time you step out, when you say pray, this pray is a negotiation, or you're informing to your subject teacher and class teacher, yes, this is what I'm out to do today, and I need your positive stake. I need you to be in with me on this. I don't want you to be doing negative things with me. And in that sense, you influence that planet if it is bad and neutral to be positive towards you. It takes dedication. It takes. So the point here is anyway you're working like a donkey in the real life. So donkey it out with these planets. And it is their duty as a parent or as somebody who's been provided the power upon you, you know, that entitlement comes to them because of their own karmic conditions. Planets have their own karmic conditions and they cannot walk out of their duty, and they cannot, say, I will not, they cannot have their way out. The point here is if you are doing your part in making them, appease them, making them happy, and doing whatever is in your power and skills to make them happy, they cannot turn you away. Then they're not doing their duty and they're not worth to be planetary beings in that sense. You can challenge them for being a good parent, for being a good planet, to give blessings. Okay, and that is what you want. That is the positive side you want, even from the negative planet or a neutral planet. Intrinsically, no planet is good or bad. It is how they're disposed to you in your birth chart. And you're trying to turn the tables by making them positive. So the thing is, as you are karmically subjected to good or bad deeds, so is everything else in this universe. So they cannot ignore you. The point is that they cannot ignore you if you are working hard on appeasing a bad planet, and they have to become neutral at some point of time. They have to reduce their negativity, they have to become neutral, and once they are neutral, they can also become positive. So you can, through dedication and prayer, turn that negativity of those class teachers and subject teachers into positivity, and then you roll out the dice, your plan, your strategies, and chances are you'll make it. Maybe it won't be a hell of a life, but you wouldn't be disappointed either. There's no giving in, right? So if you know this, I don't think you can go wrong in achieving your destiny. Again, as a percentage ranging from 0 to 100%, you wouldn't, if not 100%, you would be there somewhere in between, right? And since uh, nothing is constant, nothing is forever, you will turn towards your destiny today, tomorrow, or day after, this lifetime, next lifetime, whatever it is, but you will go there. But you need to know your moves, you need to know your opponents, visible and invisible, and that's where the planning part comes. The next part is about the praying part, how to how to interact or negotiate with these planets. When do you reach out to them? When you say daily basis, if you look at our week, the weekdays, every day is assigned to a particular planet, except Rahu and Ketu. Sunday is for Sun, Monday is for Moon, Tuesday is for Mangal, Mars, Wednesday is for Mercury, Buddha, Thursday is for Jupiter, Guru, Friday is for Venus, Shukra, Saturday is for Saturn, Shani, right? So you knock at the door of your principal, class teacher, subject teacher every day. Every day. Example, my principal is Saturn, my class teacher is Venus, and my subject teacher is Mercury. So I talk to them every day. And I seek their blessings in whatever I do, whatever important thing that I do, important milestone that I achieve, try to achieve. I take their stake. I have to bring them in into the effort is mine, the result is theirs, right? They have to get the result. So they are party to that, and you are telling them, I'm putting in my efforts, my best efforts. I need your blessings, right? You're asking for the blessings or the results. So these three connections or communication channels have to be open every day. Uh, of course, the Mahadasha and Antardasha change. My class teacher and subject teacher changes. So when I go into the next class, my subject teacher changes or the class teacher changes, then I make an equation with them. I close my chapter with these current subject teacher and class teacher, but then I start a new communication channel with the new subject teacher and class teacher. Principle always stays the same. So at any point of time, you have three communication channels going on, right? Before you do something important, you want them into that effort that you're putting in, and also into the results. You seek the blessings, it's up to them to give them or not. If they don't give it for long, they're answerable. You're not. You have put in your efforts, fail or pass. You have done your part, you have won. Okay. Next, the fourth communication channel. Today, if I say, is 25th December, is a Friday. So Friday uh, is a Venus, right? So I open my fourth communication channel with the planet of the day. Friday, I reach out to Venus and I say, okay, my target for the day, my efforts are this, need your blessings. Sunday, you talk to Sun. Communication channel with the Sun opens. Monday, you open it with the Moon. Tuesday with Mars. Wednesday with Mercury. Thursday with Jupiter. Again Friday. So at any point of time, you have four communication. Any day, you have four communication channels wherein you spend maybe a minute or two with each of these planets. Okay. So the point here is, why you do this? Because if you sweat during peacetime, you don't bleed in wartime, right? That saying goes. So when you make hay when the sun shines, right? So you don't go to these planets asking for favors during bad times alone, right? Even when the going is good, you maintain your equations, you keep your channels open with them, you talk to them, you ask them what you want from them, You give them what they want because you know what they stand for. Each planet has got a characteristic, a virtue in the human personality which they expect you to excel upon. So you work towards that in your character. That is your payback to them. They say, okay, Saturn says I want to see hard work in whatever you do. I want to see sincerity and diligence in whatever you do. No shortcuts. So that's what you do in your work. And that's what you tell Saturn, boss, I've been doing whatever you've been asking me to do. Now it's your time to give me what I've been asking for. This is the negotiation that you do with Saturn. Similarly with Mars, aggressive, aggressive, uh, aggression, right? The aggressive approach to anything. One point focus, the discipline with which you approach that. It talks about practicing your skills every time, whatever you have, whatever you've been practicing, you stay true to that. You don't take time out, you know. So that diligence again, Mars expects from you. Mars says you have to be ready for war anytime he calls you. So in that sense, whatever you've been doing, whatever your skill set, you keep working on that with diligence, with that aggression that is required to maintain that skill set, with the discipline, with the timeliness that you need. So that what keeps Mars happy, right? So you do that, bring those virtues into those Mars-like virtues into your personality, and that is what you negotiate. I've done this, and I seek your blessings. So this happens with every planet. This four-way communication channel goes on every day of your life, under every Antardasha, under every Mahadasha. And as long as you are in your, of course, productive years, you wouldn't have known unless your parents told you or some teacher told you. But if you're aware of this and you have to do this throughout your prime time, 40 years, 45 years, and you can continue doing this into your old age also, sunset years. But the point here is, having known this, you always keep those communication channels open. You maintain, you keep your bad planets negative and the neutral planets happy, even during normal times, good times, all times. Like I said, you don't run only at the time of distress, you don't do firefighting. You have to maintain this practice. This prayer is keeping the channel open with those planets which affect Earth, and you, as part of Earth, are directly or indirectly affected. How you pray to the planets is up to you. Prayer is your personal matter. How you pray to them is up to you. But there's no mistaking the influence of these planetary beings apart from whatever we believe in. They are invisible forces, but they are there. And the sphere of influence of Sun is really very big. You just cannot escape that once you're born on Earth or anywhere else in the solar system. So these are my observations and findings, and I see the more I communicate with these channels, the more I'm aligned with my goals. Probably your parents won't teach this, your schools won't teach this, no university will teach this. Unless you have a guru, entitled guru, you cannot learn this. But yes, in your self exploration, you do follow upon paths that lead you to your destiny, and probably that is how that you chance upon information like this. So basically, this is not a theory that I have cooked upon. The Vedic astrology exists and has its own proponents and has its own teachers. But somehow, the more I validate the system, the more I tend to accept the fact that such things exist. It is not just what is visible and what you see is real. Energy exists in both forms, visible and invisible, and we need to accept both.